We are right in time, and do we begin?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good evening, Harriet and Adriana. And a very, very warm welcome to all of you from different cities of India and also different parts of the world who could join us at such a short notice. Today, Indian Psychoanalytic Society is celebrating its 100th birthday. We are also celebrating the 73rd Republic Day of India. Today is the Republic Day, and this is the 73rd Republic Day of our country. We are standing on a foundation that our forefathers maintained, a scanty structure with very limited sources during all the upsurges. I would like to invoke the spirit of Dr. G.S. Bose, also the international figure, our own Dr. Freud, and other senior members of IPS thereafter to seek their blessings. We are standing at the edge of the new century. I salute the old, all the members who had given their blood to our foundation and welcome the new era. I welcome with all of you, I welcome wisdom and serenity. Every analytic process starts with problems and turbulence. It ensues internal churning and gradually culminating in better integration and health. I welcome all such processes to enable growth spurt and our capacity to love and work with each other. I hope for all the cooperation to continue. With such hope, we bring to you our welcome song. It says, "The light that comes from the depth of darkness is your light, our light. The good that remains awake in midst of all opposition and conflicts is your good, is our good." I invite Ankita for our welcome song. Yeah, you can start.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Thank you, Ankita. Now I invite our President, Dr. Pushpa Mishra, for the welcome speech.
On behalf of Indian Psychoanalytical Society, I welcome you all, and a very special welcome to our chief guest, Dr. Harriet Wolfe, the President of IPA, and to Dr. Adriana Prengler, Vice President of IPA, and to our own Dr. Sudhir Kakar, who has always positively responded to our requests to either deliver a lecture or to preside over any function. My grateful welcome to all my APPC colleagues who have either joined or will join in few minutes. Throughout the year, we have celebrated our centenary by holding every month one webinar. And though we have passed through extremely bad phase of pandemic, especially the second wave of pandemic, not a single webinar was missed. All our courses actually have been conducted online and not a single session was missed. I actually am extremely thankful to our resource persons, our students, our candidates for their dedication and for their desire to learn. Special thanks are due to Bharti Jain, our secretary, who has taken enormous trouble to organize these webinars. My thanks are also due to our Delhi and Bombay chapters, Mumbai chapters, because they also have contributed in arranging some of the very good webinars that we had. We call it our concluding seminar for the centenary celebration. But actually, in another way, it is also an inaugurating webinar in the sense that we have now started our journey towards another century. We actually have to face new challenges now, and we have to prepare ourselves to face these challenges. Namely, children have suffered very much due to pandemic. I have been hearing these problems from parents every day. The things that we actually have always been asking our children not to do, namely, don't indulge in so much mobile seeing, don't indulge in computers, go and mix with people, play, and actually enjoy playing with your comrades and your classmates. All these actually have stopped. And now they are used to a completely different new life. It will be a challenge for us psychoanalysts and psychotherapists to help them, because the kind of social life that actually we consider good for mental health is now has now shrunken, and we have to prepare ourselves to face these new challenges that are there. In order to do this, the most important thing that we have to do is to look at yourself, look at our own uncertainties, our fear of death, and the unpredictability of life. And nothing can be a better tool than psychoanalysis in this respect. So we promise that we will keep the light burning, and we seek your help and cooperation in our efforts to do that. With this, I hand over to Harriet to say a few words about our ceremony.
You're muted.
Thank you. I fixed it, I think. Thank you very much, Pushpa, for your words. It was exactly 1 year ago that I was invited to visit the Indian Psychoanalytical Society for the first time for the opening of your centenary year. We're now together on the 100th birthday itself. I am more than honored to join you on this important occasion. It is a special pleasure to be in company with Dr. Kakar, who was the main speaker at that opening ceremony. Inspired by his talk, I connected with him afterwards and have benefited in the last year from reading his work and absorbing his wisdom. Since that meeting, the IPS has offered a year-long Centenary series, as you said, of outstanding webinar events with topics ranging from the feminine to dreams and neuroscience to social dynamics, group and organizational aspects through the psychoanalytic lens, just to name a few. I believe the IPS tradition of furthering knowledge and deep-going thought began with Dr. Bose's doctoral thesis on repression. In addition, the IPS tradition of a commitment to public service was founded by Dr. Bose. He started a free clinic when he saw patients in the outdoor chamber of his home. The Memorial Clinic, founded in his name in 1970, continues to serve those in need for nominal fees, making mental health care a priority through a psychoanalytic commitment. There is yet another outstanding IPS tradition, a scholarly one, in which the Bengali Dictionary of Psychoanalytic Terms played a role. The Bengali Dictionary was first published by Dr. Bose in 1953.
Yeah.
Recently, in 2017 to be exact, your current president, Dr. Pushpa Misra, supported the development of a fourth region of the IPA in her inspiring talk at the Asia Pacific Conference in Taiwan. She enumerated the many ways in which the Indian Psychoanalytical Society wants to contribute to the development of the Asia Pacific region. And she expressed a determination to support the future of psychoanalysis worldwide. In her words, quote, "Where there is a will, there is a way," unquote. In early January of 2023, the next Asia Pacific Conference is scheduled to take place in New Delhi with added celebration in Calcutta. COVID has delayed conference planning a bit, but we are hopeful the conference will happen in person and will play a large role in introducing more IPA members to the richness of the region. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, I want to express my sympathy on behalf of the IPA for your losses during the pandemic, as well as our admiration for your generous continuation of professional activities with candidates, your communities, and with each other. I'm so proud to be with you at the beginning of your next century of leadership in psychoanalytic training, practice, and scholarship. So my sincerest congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harriet.
My
Now may I invite Adriana to say a few words.
Thank you, Bharti. I want to say that it is a great pleasure for me to be with you for this very important centennial celebration. Thank you, Pushpa, and the rest of the organizers for inviting me to be here with you tonight. I am delighted to have the opportunity to join with you in celebrating this closing program of the 100th anniversary of the Indian Psychoanalytical Society. I am impressed with how the society has celebrated this anniversary during the course of this year, despite the global pandemic. You have demonstrated energy, commitment, and your deep love for psychoanalysis, which is based in the history of your society, in its current day functioning, and its promise for the future. During this year, your scientific programs and webinars have served to foster the development and growth of psychoanalysis and psychoanalytic treatment. As we know, the Indian Psychoanalytical Society is one of the oldest component societies of the International Psychoanalytical Association. And it was Freud himself who referred Dr. Bose to contact Ernest Jones to establish the Institute as a component society of the IPA. The Indian Psychoanalytical Society has kept the torch of psychoanalysis burning bright for 100 years and is now working with others toward the development of establishing the Asia-Pacific region of the IPA. The seeds of psychoanalysis have been planted all over the world, and yet wherever it grows, it takes on characteristics of its native soil. This is as it should be, and of course, it couldn't be any other way. What is perhaps less obvious is how psychoanalysts around the world benefit from learning about the way psychoanalysis is practiced in different parts of the world. We come together around our common basic analytic attitude, and we are enriched by our cultural differences. This is, in fact, one of the great benefits of belonging to the IPA. In the brief time I have had to get to know about the Indian Psychoanalytical Society, I have been impressed by the diversity of Indian languages, religions, and ethnicities that enrich the way psychoanalysis is practiced in this great country. After this centennial celebration, we will continue with our work and look forward to the Asia-Pacific Conference next January 2023 in the beautiful cosmopolitan and historical city of New Delhi, which program is chaired by Louis Geiler. Our conference theme will be Containing Diversity, Building Bridges. This conference will invite us to explore the notions of diversity and difference and their counterparts, uniformity and sameness. India is the perfect place to discuss this topic, representing one of our most socially, culturally, ethnically, and linguistically diverse nations in the world. We are hopeful that we will get over the pandemic in one more year and be able to meet in person in New Delhi. For this Asia-Pacific conference, we are privileged to have the help of our colleagues in India, Mini Dastur, Pushpa Misra, and Gagadeep Kaur, who are working hard and very efficiently with the program and organization of this conference. Harriet Wolfe and I are extremely enthusiastic about this conference. I have never been to India, and you cannot imagine how excited I am to go there and share with you all in person in your land. Thank you for your hard work and dedication to psychoanalysis and for giving me the opportunity to join with you in this very historical centennial celebration. And now we all watch with great optimism as the Indian Psychoanalytical Society goes forth and begins its next century. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. Now we invite all of you to enjoy a small skit where Professor Freud and Dr. G.S. Bose are in an imaginary conversation. So they are on their afterlife journey, both Freud and Bose. And while walking on the royal road of unconsciousness, suddenly caught each other's eye. Dr. Bose catches Dr. Freud's eye.
Isn't it Dr. Freud?
Why, yes. And you must be Dr. G.S. Bose? Aha, finally, we got to meet here.
Oh, yes. Good to see you. But I wonder, you never believed in afterlife. So, what now?
Well, friend, perhaps I will revise my theory once more. Let me analyze this experience.
Again?
That's how life is. Look at the world today. History keeps repeating itself, and man never learns. Look at this pandemic. Man has destroyed nature in his silly narcissism. And see now, it boomerangs.
Harsh reality, indeed.
I did tell war and destruction is inevitable. Didn't I write? It's beyond the pleasure principle. Greek mythology is full of such narratives. Look at Narcissus, unable to renounce his pathological attachment to self, because of which how he shriveled and died.
Oh, yes. You are so fond of Greek mythology. You'll be surely fascinated by the Hindu mythology too. Let me tell you a story of Shiva and Shakti, the god and goddesses of creation and destruction. This is where I picked up the idea for our logo of IPS.
Aha, so I see this is the latent meaning behind your logo.
Yes, that's Shiva and his consort Parvati. But let me tell you about his first wife, Princess Sati. Shiva represents a very raw form of nature, and not everyone has the capacity to recognize and respect the rawness, the very roots and the foundations,
Hmm,
People often get drawn to the fancy and polished ones, like the powerful kings. Sati's father, King Daksha, was no different. During a very crucial ceremony, Shiva was not invited, and Sati was taunted. Moreover, Shiva was made fun of. And there, when the feminine exploitation reached too far, burning in anger, Sati sacrificed herself into the holy fire.
holy cow.
After that, when Shiva came across his beloved wife's dead body, he became so furious that he held her body and initiated his Rudra Tanda, you know, which is the violent cosmic dance of Shiva, causing upsurge in the whole cosmos.
Just like the present scenario of Thanatos all around.
Absolutely. The kind that we are seeing in the pandemic, machine ruling over nature, the creative feminine touch vanishing, just like Shiva's anger was bent on destroying the world. It's like nature's outrage, like global warming, tsunami, pandemic, and whatnot.
Oh, did he destroy the world?
Almost in his rage and grief, he was so attached to her that he couldn't let go of a lifeless body, just like we couldn't let go of our pleasures and addictions.
So you see, it's difficult to let go of the pleasure. Eros is always more desirable than Thanatos.
But nobody wanted to die the horrific death. On cosmic request, Vishnu, the mentor of life, used his Sudarshan chakra, which represents the time, to cut Sati's body into small pieces, and the process of grief started. Shiva decathed each part of her one by one.
Interesting.
He became absolutely impassioned and withdrawn. Creativity was withheld. Then Sati was reborn as Parvati, and they got back together as a united form of Ardhanarishwar.
Indeed, man, your mind has latently sorted the logo in a great manner. Bravo, bravo.
Yes, it's probably a repressed element that we Indians are carrying around in our mind. Come, let's understand our logo through the heavenly Indian traditional dance form.
Ardhanarishwara, one of the most complex forms of God in the mythology, the profound union of Purusha and Prakriti. Shakti is inseparable from Shiva and vice versa. Ardhanarishwara is beyond the classification of male and female. It unifies all the dichotomies of the universe. It represents two conflicting ways of life which are needed for the eternal reproductive power of nature for all creation. Here is a humble attempt to depict the form of Ardhanarishwara as described by Adi Shankara Bhagavad-pada. Throughout this opus, in each couplet recited, the artist reveres Shakti and Shiva as observed. Every first glance, the dancer feels the magnificence of the goddess, and every other, the splendor of the god. Is the dancer seeing it outside or seeing all these within? Ardhanarishwara.
चापेय गौरार्थ शरीरकायै चापेय गौरार्थ शरीरकायै कर्पूर गौरार्थ शरीरकाय कर्पूर गौरार्थ शरीरकाय धमिळ्ळकायै च जटाधराय धमिळ्ळकायै च जटाधराय नमः शिवायै च नमः शिवाय नमः शिवायै च नमः शिवाय अम्भोधर श्यामल कुन्तलायै कटिप्रभाताम्र जटाधराय अम्बोधर श्यामल कुन्तलायै कटिप्रभाताम्र जटाधराय गिरीश्वरायै निखिलेश्वराय गिरीश्वरायै निखिलेश्वराय नमः शिवायै च नमः शिवाय अम्बोधर श्यामल कुन्तलायै कटिप्रभाताम्र जटाधराय गिरीश्वरायै निखिलेश्वराय नमः शिवायै च नमः शिवाय gari sa ni ri ga ni sa ri ga pa ni sa ri ga sa pa ga pa ni pa gari sa ni ri ga pa ni sa ri ga pa gari sa ni pa ga sa ni pa gari sa ri ga pa ni pa ga pa ni sa ri ga pa ni gari sa
tam tam kita taga taga tari kita taga dhim dhim kita taga tai targadum targadum targadum
प्रपञ्च सृष्टुं मुख लास्यदा समस्त संहारक ताण्डवायै प्रपञ्च सृष्टुं मुख लास्यदायै समस्त संहारक ताण्डवायै जगज्जनन्यै जगदेकपित्रे जगज्जनन्यै जगदेकपित्रे नमः शिवायै च नमः शिवाय सगम पाम गम पनि सनि पम पनि सनि पाम ग सनि सगम पनि स
tajam takita taka tajam takita jonu tajam takita taka dhimi taka tam
सग सनि ग सनि नि सनि प सनि प म पनि सनि सग
taka dhimi taka jam jonu dhimi taka jam dhimi kita taka jam ta dhim dhim na tum
ग सनि प म सनि प म ग सग म म ग म पनि प म प नि सनि सा ता सनि प म सनि प म ग नि प म ग सग नमः शिवाय च नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय च नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय च नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय च
This was our logo with both the god and goddesses of creation and destruction, the togetherness of both, which runs the world. And I thank all the candidates presenting this very beautiful skit with the dance. Now I would like to invite Dr. Sudhir Kakar to present his views about IPS future and entering into this new era. Dr. Kakar. Dr. Kakar, you are muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fine. Honored chief guests from the IPA and other societies, fellow members, candidates, affiliates, and friends of the IPS. A year has passed since I stood, or rather sat behind this desk to welcome the start of the centenary celebrations of our society. In a year of pandemic turmoil, my heartfelt condolences to all colleagues who have suffered the tragic losses of friends and relatives. Before I try to peer through the crystal ball into the future of psychoanalysis in India, a task assigned to me today by the IPS, let me first express my admiration and appreciation for the sterling work done by the office bearers of our society in the preceding year. In my almost 50 years association with psychoanalysis in our country, I have never seen the society so vibrantly alive in the range of its offerings. So a big thank you for that. Psychoanalysis, we all know, is both a method of treatment and a theory of the mind. And I will begin with how I see its future as a method of treating emotional disorders. If we compare psychoanalysis to other forms of therapy, what stands out in the numerous studies is not the efficacy of psychoanalytic treatment in eliminating symptoms, but the psychoanalysis process of self-understanding. Unique to psychoanalysis is the view that insight of coming to know oneself, or even of attempting to do so, is essential to the restoration of well-being. As the search for quicker and cheaper relief of symptoms become a paramount consideration also in the future, I believe classical psychoanalysis has a limited future as a method of treatment, although psychotherapies informed by psychoanalysis will continue to attract a small, select clientele that not only seeks symptom relief, but also and especially their meaning. And this is why psychoanalysis will survive, not because it is part of a medical tradition, but because it is a valuable addition to another heritage of mankind, its introspective traditions. Historically, at the beginning of the 20th century, the psychoanalytic practice of healing what it called Seelenstörungen, disturbances of the soul, was too near that of numerous occultists and faith healers who operated at the fringes of the established churches. As late as 1931, Stefan Zweig, a writer and an admirer of Freud, apologetically wrote that he hoped he wouldn't be accused of being a mesmerist, a Christian Scientist, or a devotee of psychoanalysis. The psychoanalytic method was too close to older introspective techniques, extending from private meditations to meta-privacies of the confessional, that drew their sustenance from religion. Craving respectability as a science, psychoanalysis sought to sharply demarcate its boundaries and differentiate its methods from comparable techniques that antedated so vastly in the history of human consciousness. Now, over 125 years old, psychoanalysis should have the confidence to see itself primarily as a transforming quest for self-knowledge. Confidently reimagined, psychoanalysis will see itself as a modern secular meditative practice, a two-person analyst and analysand meditation on the biographical self, taking its special place among other introspective methods from which it had sought to distance itself so strongly at its birth. There is much to be said about the future of psychoanalysis as a theory of the mind, and I'm sorry that in the time available to me, I can touch upon only a couple of themes. First, I believe that in the coming decades, there will be additional schools to the existing ego-psychological, Kleinian, Kohutian, Bionian within mainstream psychoanalysis. I'm not counting the important ones that separated from the mainstream, Jungian, Adlerian, Lacanian, and so on. Unlike some of my colleagues, I welcome the diversity of models. It only indicates that human beings never seamlessly fit into even the most convincing of paradigms. There is always something that remains and is missing from our explanatory models. It is fine to be a blind person who grasps only one limb of the elephant, but not so helpful if each blind person starts insisting that they are the one who know what an elephant really looks like. As far as psychoanalysis as a theory of mind is concerned, what is incomplete or is missing was difficult to discern as long as the discipline considered itself as a universal enterprise where one size fits all, rather than as a global one that also reflects social cultural nuances of its host. Psychoanalysis is always met by a host culture where it needs to undergo a critical re-examination of its superstructure to see what needs to be retained, added to, be downplayed, or rejected in its development while preserving its universal valid foundations. We see this happening in other parts of the world. Latin American psychoanalysis had its developmental impetus in the political culture, namely the brutal dictatorships that led analysts to more deeply explore the relationship between internal and external reality. Or a French psychoanalysis receiving its crucial nutrients from a confrontation with the French intellectual culture, philosophical, linguistic. As the editor of an issue on Latin American psychoanalysis observes, and I quote, "It is where it has showed more openness to interaction with the environment, social, political, cultural, that psychoanalysis has been most powerful." In India too, with his deep knowledge of the cultural resources of his own civilization, Girendra Sekhar Bose and the earlier generation of analysts had embarked on the project of fashioning an Indian psychoanalysis. As I said in my talk at the beginning of the celebrations last year, my vision for the Indian Psychoanalytic Society is of a full-scale continuation of this project of fashioning an Indian psychoanalysis, not in opposition to, but an extension of and contribution to the psychoanalytic theory of the mind. Just to give one instance, current psychoanalysis conceives of the person essentially as part of her bodily and social interpersonal orders. Mental representations of bodily drives and processes and of experiences with one's social groups, beginning with the family, and the interaction between the two as the person develops through the life cycle, constitute the core constituents of her psyche. I have no quarrel with this proposition that lies at the heart of psychoanalysis. What I would like to add, a dimension that I feel is somehow missing, not only in psychoanalysis, but from most of West-inspired psychologies, is that a person is not only a part of her bodily and social orders, but also of her cosmic order. What I'm saying is that if we want to progress further in understanding human mind and behavior, then beside the partial truth of soma, the body, and the polis, the social cultural order, we need to take into account and focus on another partial truth, which Indian thought has consistently highlighted: the person as an integral part of the cosmos. Cosmos, as I visualize it, has two aspects: one subtle and the other, well, earthy. I will not expand on the former, on our everyday experiences in the subtle order, the quiet exaltation of moments when we lose a sense of a separate self. These transcendental moments are not only experienced by highly creative people in the articulation of their artistic, philosophical, or scientific visions, but can happen to anyone, anywhere, in nature, listening to music, or contemplating art, or even in the aftermath of a loving embrace, when the two bodies have separated and are lying side by side, but the souls are still one. The earthy aspect of the cosmos is the environment, nature of terrain, quality of air, sunlight, birds, animals, trees and flowers, seasons, and so on, in which we are born and live our lives. Psychoanalysis has generally equated and limited the non-self with human others. Indeed, stable mental representations of loving connectedness within the family while growing up are some of the more vital parts of what I would call the erotic field of life-giving and life-promoting forces in which we spend our lives. The erotic field, however, is not limited to our most important human relationships. There are many other human and non-human connections that we barely register and become aware of them only when the connection is lost. A patient who had long waited to migrate to the United States had his wish fulfilled when he got a well-paid job in New York. In spite of a great improvement in his material living conditions, he soon discovered how unhappy the move had made him. It was not only his family and friends that he missed, but the familiar faces he encountered every day on his way to work in Delhi. The sidewalk barber shaving a customer who would nod to him, the recognition in the eyes of the vegetable vendor he passed by, the smile of a child on his way to school, a child he did not personally know. The recognition connecting them was a part of the erotic field of the life-giving and life-promoting forces, as much flowers in the neighbor's garden or the roadside tree with a roughly hewn stone idol of Vishnu leaning against the base of its trunk, marigold petals strewn on and around the idol by passing devotees, where he stopped each morning for a quick bow with his raised hand pressed together in genuflection before continuing on his way to work. The importance of the connection to the earthy cosmos, the non-human environment, for psychological vitality is apparent to many creative artists and writers. The American poet-philosopher Henry David Thoreau, in his solitary forest retreat, wrote that his daily dip in the Walden Pond reminded him of nature's endless capacity to renew life and stir him to higher aspiration. Closer to home, the connection with his surround, the natural environment, assumed an unparalleled awareness for Rabindranath Tagore. Quote him, "My feelings seem to be those of our ancient earth in the daily ecstasy of its sun-kissed life. My own unconscious seems to stream through each blade of grass, each sucking root, to rise with the sap through the trees, to break out with joyous thrills in the waving fields of corn, in the rustling palm leaves. I feel impelled to give expression to my blood tie with the earth, my kinsman love for her, but I'm afraid I shall not be understood." As an aside, in a lighter vein, I wonder whether the earthy cosmos would have played a greater role in psychoanalytic theorizing if the setting of psychoanalytic therapy at the beginning had not been a closed room, suitable for cold European winter months and living arrangements, but took place out in the open, under a banyan tree that figures so prominently as the preferred setting of the teacher-student interactions in the Indian traditions. In conclusion, I will only say that as the globalization of ideas picks up pace, the world cannot afford to lose the lens through which Indian cultural imagination, as also the imaginations of other major civilizations, have viewed the fundamental questions of human existence, the human mind, and the quest for psychic truth. These cultural imaginations are an invaluable resource for the advancement of a global psychoanalysis that seeks to be aware of and is not limited by its origins in the modern West. I thank you all for giving me this opportunity to briefly express my thoughts and hopes for the future of a discipline that we all cherish and which continues to nourish us. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kakar. Thank you for your expression of the hopes for us and the discipline in the whole of the globe. And we really hope that they come true. The idea of the Indian psychoanalysis as extension of its global counterpart that comes true. And the discipline also continues its journey forward. Let me just invite you all to have a glimpse of the year-long program that we did and the vision and hopes and wishes of our members. So let's all go through this together.
Good evening, everyone. It may be good morning, good afternoon, good night somewhere else. So the greeting goes accordingly. It's my pleasure as Secretary of IPS, Indian Psychoanalytic Society, to welcome you all on this very, very auspicious occasion of our opening ceremony. It's the official beginning of our centenary celebrations. It's a privilege today to welcome our distinguished guests from across the globe here. It seems India has suddenly inhabited the world. Today we are celebrating our centenary because of the hard work of all our past members. Over these last 100 years, Indian Psychoanalytic Society has survived many wars and pains of division of country, the Indo-China War, Indo-Pakistan War, and many unrest till last year with COVID-19 and lockdown. However, we adapted, improvised, and survived. We were quick to change from offline to online, and that resulted in our virtual celebration today with all of you sharing our joy. So keeping in mind all these tough times and our survival through them, we seek blessings from our analytic forefathers and pledge to carry the legacy of last 100 years forward into the next century. Thank you and a very, very warm welcome to all of you to our inauguration. With this, I invite our President, Dr. Pushpa Mishra, to give her welcome address.
Friends and colleagues, on behalf of the Indian Psychoanalytical Society, I welcome you all to this very auspicious occasion. No one could deny that completing 100 years of meaningful existence, and I stress upon the word meaningful existence because mere existence is of course of no value. So completing 100 years of meaningful existence is no mean achievement. 100 years is a long time, and the world has passed through various calamities, both natural and man-made, during the last century. The latest being the pandemic, which is ravaging our hearth and home even today. But these calamities have given us new insights also. They have taught us to adapt to the changed circumstances, and I'm sure that we have grown as human beings. Psychoanalysis also has not been left untouched by these events. Each war, each natural disaster, and even this last pandemic has changed both psychoanalytic theory and therapy and techniques of therapy. We have to see how the so-called new normal, which has developed after the pandemic, it affects our theory and therapy. This is yet to be seen. This program is a hastily organized one, And the response from the IPA and APCC, it has been most encouraging.
I have to say that I feel very pleased and very honored to be here today sharing the celebration for the centenary of the foundation of the Indian Psychoanalytic Society. I want to thank the Indian Psychoanalytic Society, the Council, and the President Pushpa for having invited me to join you today. As I understood, this event marks the beginning of a celebration that will continue throughout this year until 2022, as the founding date of the Indian Psychoanalytic Society was January 26 to 1922. So I'm pleased to declare, open this celebration. And I think that it is good for, I might say, our souls to be able to come together for this event, given that we have been, as Pushpa said, living, and the lady who spoke first, we have been living through very difficult times, and we still are living very difficult times for the last year. I want to just to remind you that in the first days of January 2020, we started witnessing the spread across the world of a very contagious virus unknown to scientists until that moment. And during the past year, we have learned to live with uncertainty. We have always done this because so this is the
Virginia,
yeah.
that was
Yes.
the lighting of the lamp because you declared the ceremony is open. So that was the lighting of the lamp. It was controlled.
So it's great. This was great. Thank you very much for sharing this with you. So I feel more moved now that kind of, lighting the flame for this, and the flame will be there for at least or more than 1 year.
Yes.
So as I said, it gives more emotion to what I was about to say, that it's good for us, for our souls, for our spirits to be able to come together. Because as I said, during the last year, we learned how to live with uncertainty. I think that we have always done this, but we were able, or we could also find ways to deny it and to continue working, to continue teaching, to continue making long-term plans and traveling in a way that today is unthinkable.
So I'm honored to join you on this important occasion. It's wonderful to realize it was exactly 99 years ago that the Indian Psychoanalytical Society was founded. The fact that your rich history will be celebrated over the course of the coming year, your 100th year, is inspiring. Some aspects of your history stand out for me particularly. First, the tradition of deep insight and deep-going thought begun by Dr. Bose in his doctoral thesis on repression. Second, your commitment to public service, also begun by Dr. Bose, who began a free clinic of his own as he saw patients in the outdoor chamber of his home. The Memorial Clinic, founded in his name in 1970, continues to serve the poor for nominal fees, making mental health care a priority through a psychoanalytic commitment. Finally, your library and your scholarly tradition stand out. From the Bengali Dictionary of Psychoanalytic Terms, first published by Dr. Bose in 1953, to your current library and journal. I was inspired by Dr. Pushpa Mishra's talk, recorded in Taiwan in 2017 at the Asia Pacific Conference, where she not only enumerated the many ways in which the Indian Psychoanalytical Society could and would like to contribute to the development of the Asia Pacific region. She also expressed a determination that will help the future of psychoanalysis worldwide. I quote, "Where there is a will, there is a way." So we look forward to working with you in all these areas with persistence and effectiveness, psychoanalytic training, community service and outreach, and scientific development. Congratulations on your long and impressive history, and all best wishes for the future. Thank you.
Good morning for you, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be here. When I accepted Pushpa's invitation to take part in this memorable event to celebrate the centenary of the Indian Psychoanalytic Society, one of the oldest components of the IPA, I felt great pleasure for that. The IPS has been marked by the recognition of the exceptional work and seriousness of its founder with psychoanalytic theory and practice, Dr. Bose. He approached psychoanalysis in an original and creative way, revealing the plasticity and effectiveness of our practice. I believe it is exactly these skills that are fundamental for us. And that is what makes psychoanalysis continue to survive for over 100 years. During my term as vice president of the IPA, I could follow more closely the work of several IPA component societies around the world. And certainly the exchange and contact with Indian colleagues was very rich. Especially in recent years, it has been a great pleasure to work closely with Pushpa Mishra and Mini Dastur, to say a few, on the Asia Pacific Planning Committee, and to be able to share ideas, experiences, and visions in order to foster psychoanalysis and the growth of the Asia Pacific region in IPA. I would like also to take the opportunity to celebrate and say that I look forward to the next Asia Pacific Conference that will take place in India in 2022. I have, with pleasure, taken part in the organization. By that time, I will no longer be the IPA vice president, but I really hope that we can meet in person to celebrate this very significant and symbolic occasion. And finally, I would like to congratulate you all for your competence, professionalism, and dedication in the hard work of transmitting psychoanalysis, and express my warmest wishes for the continuation of this very important mission. Thank you so much.
Thank you first very much for the invitation to, to attend the inauguration of the centennial celebration of the Indian Psychoanalytic Society, marking its creation on January 26, 1922. As past president-elect of the International Psychoanalytic Association, I am delighted and honored to be here celebrating one of the earliest psychoanalytic institutions established in the world. It is also a great pleasure for me to meet the distinguished Dr. Sudhir Kakar and all of you. I learned that the founder of the Indian Psychoanalytic Society, Dr. Girin Sherak Bose, independently discovered the concept, as you said, of repression, and also the idea that for every conscious wish, there is its opposite operating in the unconscious. Through the exchange of letters between Freud and Bose, Freud expressed his pleasure at the formation of the Indian Psychoanalytic Society. It was very interesting for me to learn that 90 years ago, in 1931, on Freud's 75th birthday, the Indian Psychoanalytic Society sent Freud the gift of a white Vishnu made of ivory, which he situated in a place of honor on his desk, where it sat for the rest of his life. Vishnu represents preservation and protection, and in this case, we might imagine that it reassured Freud that India would preserve and protect psychoanalysis. It was for Freud a reminder of the progress of psychoanalysis and the way it was reaching foreign countries far from Austria. Freud and Bose came from very different backgrounds. Freud from Austria was influenced by his Jewish European background, and Bose from India was influenced by his immersion in Indian philosophy. And yet, when they each studied the human mind, both discovered similar psychological concepts. This is a beautiful illustration of the importance of the International Psychoanalytic Association, which draws together psychoanalysts from different parts of the world, permitting us to share similarities and be enriched by our diversity. It will be a great pleasure and enriching experience for all of us to join in, I hope, commemorating to the 100th anniversary of the Indian Psychoanalytic Society in the Asian Pacific Conference coming up in 2022. Thank you so much for your contribution to psychoanalysis.
Honorable guests, the presidents of the International and the Indian Psychoanalytic Societies, and colleagues, many of whom I know personally, but some who I don't, my greetings. I'm honored to preside over this meeting that marks the 100th birth centenary of the Indian Psychoanalytic Society. Our secretary, Bharati Jain, who has worked so hard in organizing this meeting, has asked me to say a few words, and I quote her, about how you see psychoanalysis in an Indian context. There is bound to be much that may be familiar to some of you in this talk from my earlier writings, and here I ask for your indulgence. Our ideas are not unlimited, and the few we are blessed with are like shattered pieces of glass in a kaleidoscope that appear and reappear in our writings.
Celebrate the Indian Psychoanalytic Society Centenary and having the pleasure to meet you all. As overall chair of the IPA Committee of Women in Psychoanalysis for the past almost 4 years, I've been involved with collaborating with colleagues internationally and our engagement around issues related to women and gender. We've held conferences in all regions of the IPA, inclusive of the Asia Pacific region, and specifically in India.
It's an honor to be invited to join you today for this very important event. And I want to thank Dr. Kakar for this lecture. It feels like I'm being more prepared for the 2022 conference already. I still remember the surprise I felt when I learned that India has such a long history in psychoanalysis. Or perhaps I should say psychoanalysis has a long history in India. As I'm saying this, it occurred to me that maybe my indecision about what's the frame and what's the process is because it's impossible to distinguish the two in this case. The mutual influence between culture and psychoanalysis is undeniable. 100 years is a very long time for a discipline to evolve and maintain its vitality in any place. For me, the result of this evolution is easily recognizable. In my contact with my Indian colleagues, I've always been struck by their humanitarian approach toward the community and the world at large, and their awareness and insight into prejudice and its effect on psychical life. The practice of psychoanalysis seemed to me have grown uniquely and admirably in India. It's something I wish for my own society in Taiwan and for Asia Pacific region.
I'm very honored to be able to have been asked to say a few words on behalf of the Australian Psychoanalytical Society at the inauguration of your centenary celebrations for the Indian Psychoanalytical Society. I've been working with my Indian colleagues in one form or another for over a decade now, most recently in my role as Australian Society President as part of the IPA Asia Planning Committee. Our society also has a long-standing involvement with the IPA-sponsored biannual India-Israel-Australia conference. In more recent years, our Australian members have participated with our Indian colleagues in the Asia-Pacific conferences, initially in Taiwan and then Tokyo. And I've also always been impressed by the lively and original contribution of my Indian colleagues. I think in link theory terms that I imagine that Indian members may have been influenced through vertical links represented by the original thinking of their founding father, Dr. Gurinder Sekar Bose, and via horizontal links by the rich tapestry of Indian culture.
To be invited to this 100 years anniversary inauguration of the Indian Psychoanalytic Society makes me feel much honored. Congratulations. 2 times, as Paula Ehrman already said, in 2018 and 19, I had the luck to be able to come to the COVAP conferences in Kolkata. Now in the pandemic afterwards, it seems like a big gift for me that this was possible. Between these 2 journeys, I read the book by Uffe Jensen, it's a German historian, How the Couch Came to Kolkata. And in this book, I learned so much extremely interesting things about the first International Psychoanalytic Society, which was founded in Kolkata. The more I felt excited when I was invited by Pushpa Misra in 2019 to your society's house to give their supervision to the excellent candidates of your society and also participating in the opening ceremony of your library, which we saw in the film.
Thank you for the invitation, and I'm very pleased, excited, and grateful for being here and ushering in this year of celebration together with you and all the distinguished colleagues. I just want to mention 2 or 3 of my contacts with your society, which have been, in a way, very meaningful to me. I think the first one was when I attended your initiative of forming the Indian-Australian meetings, which then, after my joining that, became the Indian-Australian-Israeli meetings. And those have been attended by many members of my society, of the Israel Society, and myself. And we've always found them to be excellent meetings from both a social point of view, a cultural point of view, and above all, from a psychoanalytic point of view.
I just wanted to say that I'm hugely pleased to be here and offer all my congratulations. It's so moving to listen to this ancient, noble psychoanalytic tradition with all its vibrancy, and particularly important is its cultural complexity and richness, because I think that, looking forward, we need to have, as has been said already, so much more integration of ways of seeing and broadening that. They become so narrowed in what we call the Western way of seeing things. For those of you who don't know, I'm the chair of a new in the community committee that Virginia set up on climate.
Good evening, everybody, and good afternoon to Professor Solm, since he is there in Germany and it's most probably 3 p.m. At your place.
Thank you so much for that fulsome introduction. I am very glad to be with you. My only regret is that I'm not physically there. And one of these days, hopefully, that will be rectified.
I'll wait for other people to join us.
Yeah, we'll wait.
Mobile phones did not exist yet. In a prehistoric era, so to speak, more than 30 years ago, I was in the last part of the end phase of an analysis with a male patient.
About individual trauma, but also collective trauma.
So I welcome you all and welcome Margaret. Today it is our 45th GS Memorial Lecture.
I am indeed very proud to be a supervising analyst with the Indian Psychoanalytic Society.
I think we can find instances both of attacks on linking and failure to link.
The topic today is about us, the women today.
You and many of the Indian society whom I have already met and have long-standing relations with. And I think it's also a special occasion because both our countries have been going through very difficult times. We didn't know whether we will be able to have this webinar with the situation here, but fortunately enough.
Well, it's an honor to have been invited to talk to you today and an especial honor to be part of the program celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Indian Psychoanalytical Society. Thank you so much. It's also a great pleasure to be on a webinar with Delaram Habibi Cohen and Dr. Pushpa Misra, President of the Indian Society, both of whom I have come to see as my sisters.
First, thank you very much for inviting me to be here with you today as part of the celebration of the centenary of the Indian Society.
Good evening, everybody. As already our president has mentioned that this is the concluding ceremony of the Golden Jubilee celebration of GS Clinic, Girendra Shekhar Bose Clinic.
Thank you, Dr. Brahmo, and my regards to Pushpadi and Bharati and Dr. Devashish Bhattacharya and all the other members of the Psychoanalytical Society. I am so honored to be invited in this very nice get-together of GS Bose Memorial Lecture, and always feel very much at heart with the people whom I am associated with for many, many years.
I just want to say thank you very much for the invitation, Bharti. It is an honor to be here, and wouldn't it have been lovely to have actually been there in person? But this is what we have to resort to. I'm very pleased to have this opportunity actually to have this discussion on the death instinct, which is such a difficult thing to discuss. We've never discussed it before, Bob and I.
Firstly, Bharti, I wanted to thank you and the Indian Society for what a wonderful celebration of your 100 years this year. And thank you all for that.
Bharti, I just got to know, but certainly both Mini and Pushpa I know from before, and both very respectful and fond of.
We would also like to felicitate Ms. Chaudhary with a small tribute. মনে হচ্ছে অনেকেই প্রশ্ন লেখেন এবং তারা কিন্তু উঠে দাঁড়িয়ে হয়তো প্রশ্ন করতে স্বচ্ছন্দ বোধ করবেন। তারা বলছেন না মেয়েদের আধার ভাবছি না যে আধার লেখা হচ্ছে কোনো মানুষকে থাকতে পারে যার এই আধার শ্রেণী তো অনেক রকম আছে আধার ঠিক করা হয়তো আমি সেটা বোঝাতে পারছি না যে আমাকে কি তো যারা আপনারা লয়ের সাথে আছেন ন্যারেটিভ কলাম থাকতে পারে সেখানে আমি বোঝাবো আমি ছেলে বাইরেও আমার যদি অন্যরকম আমি সেটা সেখানে লিখতে পারি পরে তো আমি আমার লাইফ সবকিছু বোঝাতে পারি তো আমি জানি না এরকম কখনো এসেছে কিনা বা এরকম কখনো কোনো আন্দোলন হয়েছে কিনা আমার জানা নেই আমার মনে হলো যে একটা মানুষ কথা বলতেই পারে আদার্সটাকে আমি আদার্স বলতে চাই না আমি এক্স্যাক্টলি কি ভাবছি এটা আমি সমাজকে জানাতে চাই তো কেন সেখানে কোনো ন্যারেটিভ কলাম থাকবে না কেন আমরা সেই কোয়ালিটি যেভাবে আমি চাইছি সেভাবে বলতে পারবো এরকম কি কখনো কিছু হয়েছে বা আমি জানতে চাইছি
সে যে স্বপ্ন দিয়ে তৈরি সেজে স্মৃতি দিয়ে ঘেরা এমন দেশটি কোথাও খুঁজে পাবে না গো তুমি সে যে সকল দেশের রানী সেজে আমার জন্মভূমি সে যে আমার জন্মভূমি সে যে আমার জন্মভূমি She who has been conceived of in dreams and is wrapped in memories. Where else would we find such a space as this, as the birthplace of psychoanalysis?
In the post-centenary situation of IPS, my vision is to have more trained personnel in psychoanalysis to uplift the status of psychoanalysis in India. Other than that, I would like to have this opportunity of developing insightful dialogue among the psychoanalysts present in the situation so that the society would run very smoothly in a coordinated, integrated fashion and would be more productive in helping people to get over their symptoms and developing self-understanding.
In the midst of the raging pandemic, what kept us going through this year were a series of outstanding lectures organized by the Indian Psychoanalytic Society in Kolkata. I want to compare it with Tagore's poem On the Seashore, where he writes, "On the seashore of endless worlds, children meet. Tempest roams in the pathless sky. Ships are wrecked in the trackless water. Death is abroad and children play. On the seashore of endless worlds is the great meeting of children." Thank you, Kolkata.
Firstly, I will begin by thanking IPS from the depths of my heart for existing and creating provisions for us to engage with psychoanalysis in such a intimate way. Regarding my vision and fantasies around IPS, I think my fantasies around psychoanalysis in general and IPS in particular is that since I see psychoanalysis as a radical movement, I wish that IPS keeps alive in its next 100 years the spirit of fostering imagination, curiosity, tolerance, inclusiveness, and most importantly, the unfailing zest to engage with pain and suffering of all kinds in its praxis and ways of thinking.
Hello everybody, my name is Miki Bhatia. I live in Mumbai and I've been associated with the IPS for many years now. It was 2003 when I became a member and 1997 or 1998, 1997 I think, when I started my training. I also want to say that I was born in Mumbai but grew up in Calcutta and spent the first 18 years of my life in Calcutta. And just a little story that when you're getting off a flight, you hear people gruffly saying when they land in different cities like Delhi or Bombay or whatever, "Gaadi leke aao," yeah, "Are you there?" The one thing that I consistently hear when I land in Calcutta, or as we now call it Kolkata, "Ma, ami eshe giyechi." And with that, I want to stress the importance of IPS as we know it. I've had lots of conversations with Dr. Arup Ghoshal and Dr. Mishra and Bharti and all the office bearers today at the IPS. I want to say a big, big thank you.
I see the IPS today as the survivor of so many forces antagonistic to the psychoanalytic way of understanding the human mind. It is also a fighting fit survivor, which is on the threshold, as it were, of a tremendously exciting growth spurt. My dream for the IPS in the coming years is of a society whose doors are wide open to greater knowledge and insightful discoveries wherever they might emanate from, and that it is an IPS always secure in the truth that psychoanalysis aims to represent and to achieve.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, RIPS. Happy birthday to you. আমার রূপের পুরে সাধ মেটায় বেড়ায় ঘুরে নয়ন আমার রূপের পুরে সাধ মেটায় বেড়ায় ঘুরে শ্রবণ আমার গভীর সুরে হয়েছে জগতে আনন্দ যোগে আমার জীবন জগতে আনন্দ যোগে আমার জীবন
Where the Mind is Without Fear by Rabindranath Tagore. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, when knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reasons has not lost its way into the teary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake.
Thank you all for being with us and watching what we did the whole year round. We had lots of webinars, a couple of in-person meetings, and you also heard what our members wished and hoped as our society moves forward. May I now invite our guest who wants to just say a few words. May I start with Maria? Are you there, Maria?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Really, such a immersion is in the Indian cultural imagination, as Dr. Kakar said before. I just would like to remember all the exchanges that we had with the Indian society that goes back mainly to the Beijing conference in 2010, when Mini gave the keynote speech with Salman Akkar, and then Huma and Miki Bhatia were there. And since then, there was a close working towards the Asia-Pacific region. It was already mentioned. But in all the IPA conference with Mini and Pushma, also the IPA conference with the past secretary, Arup Gojal, there was really a very close working together towards the formation of the Asia-Pacific Conference. So I would just say that, thanking, the colleagues of the Indian society and thanking friendship that go back to many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much. May I now invite Kunihiro Matsuki. Would you like to say something?
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me. Such a wonderful, how can I say, anniversary meeting. And I'm very happy to here with you because Indian culture is some of the original of our Japanese culture. So we always respect Indian cultures and also Indian society because Indian society is one of the oldest society in Asian Pacific region. So I'm very pleased to join these meetings, and I hope Asian Pacific region, including Indian society, will become more big, and so making a fourth region of IPA. And I would like to say congratulations on the 100th anniversary this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. May I invite Teresa? Would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you. I only want to say a few words. It really is an honor to be here with you. I think about this year-long celebration always in the context of the pandemic. It's really incredible. I think this year-long celebration, the IPS has kept up in spite of all the hardship that the country is going through. It not only demonstrated to all of us the remarkable perseverance of your devotion to the psychoanalysis. It really gives me hope, I think, not only for the future of psychoanalysis, but to the spirit of humanity. It's truly inspiring for me to follow through this whole year program. And thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Teresa. Well, let me invite Luis. Hi, Luis. Would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you, Bharti. Firstly, to say thank you for a wonderful event as your final centenary celebration. It's been a privilege to be with you. Firstly, on behalf of the Australian Society, I want to congratulate you on your centenary, your rich history, and your thought-provoking work, as Teresa's just said, that you were able to keep on going with over the tragedy of the pandemic. So it's been absolutely inspiring. So on behalf of my Australian colleagues, we send our warmest best wishes. And for the continuation of your work.
I would also like to say, as chair of the program committee for the Indian conference in January 2023, that I absolutely look forward to meeting you all in person, hopefully, and that we will be able to spend time together in a celebratory way and a work way, and share ideas for the development and continuation of the region. So thank you.
Thank you, Louise. And I also am feeling quite overwhelmed with all of you being here. And I would like to make a very small announcement. One of our very senior beloved colleague has instituted a prize, a Centenary Prize, which would go to the best student paper of the year, and it will continue every year with the name of IPS Centenary Award. So that will begin from this year onwards. Now I would invite you all to listen to two short poems by Rabindranath Tagore, recited by one of our candidate, Kasturi. Over to you, Kasturi.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhatti. Let me convey my heartfelt thanks and regards to all of you. I feel privileged to be a part of this meaningful journey of IPS. I'm now sharing a translated version of two well-known poems by Tagore. First, The Golden Boat. Clouds rumbling in the sky, skimming rain. I sit on the river bank, sad and alone. The ships lie gathered, harvest has ended. The river is sullen and fierce in its flow. As we cut paddy, it started to rain. One small paddy field, no one but me. Flood waters twisting and swelling everywhere. Trees on the far bank, mere shadows like ink. On a village painted on deep morning grey. On this side, a paddy field, no one but me. Who is this, peering close to the shore, singing? I feel that she is someone I know. The sails are filled with white, she says ahead. Waves break helplessly against the boat each side. I watch and feel I have seen her face before. Oh, to what foreign land do you sail? Come to the bank and moor your boat for a while. Go where you want to, give where you care to, but come to the bank a moment, show your smile. Take away my golden paddy when you sail. Take it, take as much as you can load. Is there more? No, none. I have put it aboard. My intense labor here by the river, I have parted with all, layer upon layer. Now take me as well, be kind, take me abroad. No room, the boat is too small. Loaded with my gold paddy, the boat is full. Across the rain sky, clouds heave to and fro. On the bare river bank, I remain alone. What hag has gone? The golden boat took all. The second one. I cannot remember my mother. I cannot remember my mother. Yet sometimes in the middle of my playing, a melody seemed to hover over my plaything. Some forgotten tune she loved to sing while rocking my cradle. I cannot remember my mother. Yet sometime on an early autumn morning, the smell of the shivli flowers fills my room as the scent of the temple's morning service wafts over me like my mother's perfume. I cannot remember my mother, yet sometimes still from my bedroom window, when I lift my eyes to the heaven's vast blue canopy, I sense on my face her serene gaze. I feel her grace has encompassed the sky. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasturi. And with that, I would like to thank you. I would like to thank all of you present here with us. It's a great moment and it's a privilege. It's a privilege for me to thanking you all for being with us in our celebration. I would like to especially thank Harriet, Adriana, and Dr. Kakar for agreeing to be our guest and accommodating our timings. I must thank all APPC members, Maria Teresa Hook, Kunihiro Matsuki, Teresa Pai, Hank Zan, Louis Schuyler, and all of you who have joined with us. I would also like to thank Small Ehrlich, Alina, who had to leave because of their engagement earlier. I especially thank our President, Dr. Mishra, our members and candidates for their joint efforts. That is why we could do all that we are doing. I thank Minnie, who worked tirelessly on APPC, and Gagandeep Kaur too. I thank our Mumbai and Delhi Secretary, Mickey and Vinita, for being there and handling different things that they are about the chapters. I thank all our members, affiliates, and candidates from Kolkata, Mumbai, and Delhi, and other cities who could join us. I would like to thank Devjani and Anoma, our candidates, for the skit, and another candidate, Ashwati, for the beautiful dance that you saw about Ardhanarishwara. I thank Kasturi for the recitation and Ankita for the welcome song. With this thanks, I would like to conclude our meeting with one of this very popular song of Rabindranath Tagore. Before we start the clipping, I would just like to go through the English translation, which the beginning is Ekla Chalore. So you walk alone. And this is very close to what we do in psychoanalysis. So what he says is, if they answer not to your call, walk alone. If they are afraid and cower mutely, facing the wall, O thou unlucky one, open your mind and speak out alone. If they turn away and desert you when crossing the wilderness, O thou unlucky one, trample the thorns under thy tread and along the bloodline track, travel alone. If they shut doors and do not hold up the light when the night is troubled with storm, O thou unlucky one, with the thunder flame of pain, ignite your own heart and let it burn alone. So walk alone when others are not with you. With this clipping, where this song is sung by the Japanese ambassador to India, we conclude our ceremony.
যদি তোর ডাক শুনি কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোরে দেখ শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো রে যদি তোরে দেখ শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোরে দেখ শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি কেউ কথা না কয় ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা কেউ কথা না কয় যদি সবাই থাকে মুখ ফিরায় সবাই করে ভয় যদি সবাই থাকে মুখ ফিরায় সবাই করে ভয় তবে পরাণ খুলে ও তুই মুখ ফুটে তোর মনের কথা একলা বলরে যদি তোরে দেখ শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর দেখ শুনে কেউ না আসে যদি সবাই ফিরে যায় ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায় যদি গহন পথে যাবার কালে কেউ ফিরে না চায় যদি গহন পথে যাবার কালে কেউ ফিরে না চায় তবে পথের কাটা ও তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তোরে একলা দোলরে যদি তোর দেখ শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর দেখ শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি আলো না ধরে ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা আলো না ধরে যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দে ঘরে যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দে ঘরে তবে পজরা নলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা জ্বলর যদি তোরে দেখ শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি তোরে দেখ শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে
Thank you so much. And of course, as Rabindranath said, that if nobody listens to your call, you walk alone. And of course we do. But we are sincerely hoping that this fourth region as Asia Pacific comes up and all of you will be together with us and we will walk together, not alone. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.